Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Giggles. Sorry about that, y'all.
You're good. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. I am Mr. J Giggles, and with me here is Zosty. Welcome to Super Metroid 100%. Sorry that you guys missed everything that we were saying during Series Escape, but we're here.
I was talking faster in that series escape doing a commentary for nobody. Whoops. All right.
So Super Metroid 100% has kind of been it's been pushed to its limits a lot lately. There was probably 2 years where there weren't a lot of high-level runners actively running the category, and then Behemoth came back and pushed the PB down, and then Zeni became the second person to get a 114, and then there was some back and forth between you and Zeni. Is that about right, Zost?
Yeah, there's been a little back and forth recently for second place. Zenny's been pushing it, like the strats, a little bit harder than I have, I'd say. Yeah, I hadn't really played it too seriously in like 4 years, but Zenny's been really pushing his gameplay really hard lately. It's been good to see. He's got a good shot of pushing his PB down even further, getting close to the world record these days, if he keeps pushing it down.
Absolutely, and that kind of brings up a good point. For those of you who have seen a Super Metroid run before, Zeni is a little peculiar in that he tends to go for strategies that are insanely different, but he makes them look easy, and he's actually fairly consistent with a lot of them. So you might be in for some things you haven't seen before.
Yeah, I like this strategy for speedrunning, going for all the crazy strats, even though it reduces your consistency, but there's a chance that he'll just be become unstoppable one day if he gets really consistent with all these strats.
The ever elusive run, as it were.
Right.
So this first mini boss here is Bomb Chorizo, and he's mad because we just took his chorizo. So he's gonna start shooting chorizos at us, and we're gonna shoot him in the face.
Yeah, a little bit of a hiccup there. We got all our missile drops in the first round, kind of bunched up in the same spot. That's not really what we want to see. So you want to get half the missiles and shoot those at Bomb Chorizo, and then get more missiles from the same drop and shoot them. So we got a 2-round there, but it's not that big of a deal, like 2 or 3 seconds lost. And the beginning of this run is pretty much the same as any Super Metroid run. But we're going to be seeing a little bit of variation once we get down to Green Prince Star. We'll be seeing some more item collection than we usually would.
I'll make a sincere attempt not to be as technical and commentary as I usually am. I think I'll leave it to the basic understanding of the tricks. So while we're waiting to get to the first big speed room, do we have any donations?
We have got a couple of donations, as a matter of fact. A $20 donation from Moonshake saying, "Kill the animals." And here's the fun one. Harvest Farmer donates $500 saying, "Let's make things a little bit closer, shall we? 100% should mean to save the animals." So that's what all of this goes towards. Save the kids, save the animals. And that's going to put Save the Animals in the lead 910 to 411.
Oof. So what we just saw there with Zeni coming into this room is he did what's called a mock ball, and what that does is it allows you to maintain your running speed in morph just by morphing at the same time you hit the ground, and that allows you to get under those gates that normally would require you to have an item he'll get later called Speed Booster, and allows us to get super missiles early and completely skip a DLC boss.
We also saw Zeni taking damage from the pirates on the way down, which is indicating to me that he is going to not do early power bombs route, which I kind of knew already, but yeah, there's two different variations of this optimal route. One where you can do early power bombs and collect all the items in Kraid's Lair the first time you go there, or you can skip the early power bombs collection and get your first power bombs down at Crocomire. Wait, not Crocomire. You still get the same power bombs, but then you just get them much later. And they're pretty much the same speed. It's more of a preference thing than anything. But yeah, we'll be seeing Zeni go straight down at Red Tower. Otherwise, he would have conserved his energy more, because when you go to early power bombs, you will be taking a lot more damage, and you'll run out of health basically before when you get down to Kraid if you don't conserve your energy a little bit if you're going to power bombs early.
Yeah, it's honestly, categories like 100% and reverse boss order especially, it's interesting the little variations in route just that you can see between any two given runners. Obviously there are things that are maybe more optimal, but seeing how many different ways there are to approach it and something that may be more consistent for the individual runner, it's interesting to see that level of variety in a game that's been this optimized.
Agreed. Yeah, it's interesting too if you look at like the history of 100%. There's been a lot of different routes that have been used. And you go back far enough, you go like to Red Scarlet's 100% segmented run. That route is wild. It's out there. At least like looking back from the modern day, looking back from today's understanding, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, there's even when I first started and people were trying to figure out the routing, there was some very different routing used. Most of the runners when I was playing that in the community, like Desurect and Apathy and Chronic Sauce would do, they would go up green, or they would go down blue Brinstar after Wreck Ship and up green at the end of the game. And that's like reversed these days. For our current understanding, there was an error in their timing of the routes, but yeah, and there's also you can get the easier route for this category is to get Grapple Beam earlier than you'll see in this run. Zeni's going to skip that because it's faster to delay that Grapple Beam collection. And the first time Hodorobu was beat, it was a really weird route. It went up Blue Brinstar on the way to Wreck Ship, down green after Wreck Ship. So there's like so many different things historically that we've seen in 100%. It's really cool to see all the ways of the categories evolved in the routing.
For sure. So here we've got Zenny at the first boss of the game, first of the real bosses, and that's Kraid. He got through the Kraid quick kill without any issues. If you shoot him, his mouth has 3 positions. If you shoot him with a super missile on the second position and keep following up, you can kind of lock him in that position. And if you deplete his health bar before he closes his mouth, he never rises and the room doesn't get bigger, and it saves a bunch of time. So getting through that without any issue as expected. That was quite a bit of Super Metroid history you went through there, so.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got a little carried away.
No, you're
So yeah, we're going past. There's a missile pack that he just went past, and we'll have to come back to this area and get it. But it leads to some cool strats returning to this area. Hopefully we'll see some good stuff then.
There's going to be a lot of really interesting strats that we're going to see here. You know, when you compare this to the early Croc route, you know, you have an extra energy tank going through the wreck ship, which is kind of the last point in the run where health is a variable. Since we're doing late Croc and early ice, we're not going to have that extra E-tank to make the routing through wreck ship a little bit as safe as it could be. So health management is going to be really important, and making sure he has enough energy in his reserves is also going to be important to make sure that he can get through the wreck ship and through the gauntlet without having to stop the ship.
Yeah, for now we're just collecting some items to power us up. We need Speed Booster down here to get the. We essentially need Speed Booster to get the wreck ship E-tank, which is blocked by a speed block. It also helps. Like, you can't really do fan tune first. There's a way to get a fake, you know, like to get a Shine Spark charge without Speed Booster, but it would be kind of silly. It'd be really silly to go to fan tune first in this category. That's why we have to go down to Norfair first. We want those items to make the collection wreck ship faster, and yeah, we need that Speed Booster for the wreck ship reserve tank.
And that's, you know, one of the things with, even with all the route variations, the fundamental routing, the boss order is the same all the way throughout, regardless of which of the modern routes you use. Just because of a couple of very specific blocks, you need, like Zoe said, you need the speed booster to get one of the items in wreck ship. Not having gravity suit before Meridia is pointless for 100%. So we go to wreck ship after we get speed, and then you have to get space jump from Meridia, or else you can't access one of the items by the mini boss in Lower Norfair, Golden Chorizo. So the fundamental routing is going to be the same, with just kind of variations for a couple of minor.
Yeah, most of the variation has to do with like cleanups in areas that are not boss areas. And when you do those, as far as during the, you know, in relation to the bosses, the main bosses.
Now
So
we picked up the speed, and this is kind of where the run starts taking off. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff that we can do, and there's going to be a couple of fun things that Zenny is definitely going to be trying to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about spike suits?
Spike suits?
Yeah, because there's at least a few of them in the run that he's going to go.
Yeah, okay, with Speed Booster, there is some ways to store a Shine Spark charge. Normally when you duck for a Shine Spark, to charge a Shine Spark out of Speed Booster, you have 3 seconds to use it. But there are ways to sort of glitch the game into giving you a permanent Shine Spark charge. One way that's maybe the most known is Blue Suit. When you just fight Dragon and kill him with a Shine Spark, you get the blue echoes. You can't hold dash during that, though, so it's kind of limited and slow in some cases. But there's a way, if you do some frame perfect inputs off a spike with the Shine Spark charge that you can do what's called a spike suit and store a charge and be able to still hold dash. And we'll see that most notably in Croc's lair near the end of the run, that he'll try to get that Shine Spark or spike suit. We'll also see it in Dragon's area. We can use the blue suit and just not worry about doing the spike suit during Dragon. It's not that big of a deal, but it's definitely, you know, at least a few seconds faster to be able to hold dash when you're getting space jump and coming out of Dragon's lair. You're going to be using it pretty quickly, but it's still, you know, significantly faster to be able to hold dash. So we will be seeing him go for that at Dragon.
Looks like we have a couple of minor announcements here, and by minor I mean major. I'm just trying to be humble. So Zost, you also have a run in this charity marathon, and that is the category to be determined, because the category you're going to do is actually the donation incentive, and it looks like the donation incentive for which category you guys are going to be making Zost run is now open. So feel free to decide his fate between now and tomorrow. And then Save Kill the Animals is only open for this run, but after this run is over, it should be opening for Zost run as well. So even if we aren't able to overcome the $500 deficit and make the objectively correct decision of killing the animals, you still have the chance to do the right thing when Zost does his run.
It feels like a throwback to my first GDQ run, which was a donation incentive between the 3 major categories. My 100% run, the first one I did, was actually a donation incentive between 3 categories. So we're going to see Zenny head to the wreck ship now. With ice, it's going to kind of be, he's going to be using the actual intended strats to get up Red Tower with ice here. The easier route actually is harder for Red Tower in some ways. At least it would be for a casual player. Because you wouldn't have ice to freeze those rippers coming up the Red Tower shaft there. So yeah, if you're a newer player in picking up this category, there's no shame or no real detriment to picking up grapple early and doing that route first. You'll have an extra E-tank for a wreck ship, which is very helpful, and well, that's the major thing I'd say that's a benefit to it. And well, you also have grapple for like the wreck ship E-tank room, and make it a lot easier to get that item.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as accomplished a runner as either you or Zenny is, and I can say that HBJ to get the E-tank and wreck ship is absolutely so. I still do the early croc route myself.
In fact, if you're a new player looking to pick up 100%, I will say there's a lot of different things you can, a lot of little variations you can make to this route to make it easier to start up with. For one, picking up grapple, go to Croc before you come here when you're down in Upper North here. Make it a lot easier. And you can even get ice if you want to before here. It's definitely not required, but if you really have trouble with the Red Tower, you can get ice early as well. A few other things you can do. You can delay the wreck ship E-tank area until after you get gravity suit, which wreck ship E-tank area is one of the more dangerous areas in this run as far as dying. So you can get the gravity suit and then double back to the wreck ship E-tank when you have Varia to go through those dangerous rooms. And it's really not that huge of a time loss.
That he just to point out here is that he just got a really cool trick called Ocean Fly, and to use his terminology here, not the fake Ocean Fly where you hit the door and then do a second spark, but the real Ocean Fly where you open the door and fly across both. It's pretty precise of a trick, and lining it up with a charge shot is even more impressive, because I found it to be much harder than doing it with a super missile. So him getting Ocean Fly there was pretty slick.
Yeah, I feel like you only have a couple of frames to get that Shine Spark Because you can be, if you're just a little early, you'll bonk the door, and if you're just a little late, your little beam will disappear. So you really only have like two frames or so. It probably varies, but it's pretty hard to get for sure. Now we're coming up to Fantoon here. This is probably the biggest RNG. I mean, it's known as the biggest RNG factor in Super Metroid, but I'd say in 100% it's even more of like one of the big RNG elements, because 100% doesn't have that much RNG overall as some of the other categories. Unfortunately, we're getting a slow first round here. So the difference between slow and fast is about 11 seconds. So yeah, and the problem with slow patterns is a lot of times they're worse for actually initiating the round. Like there's more flames in your way, and it's harder to get a clean, fight for that round. So we saw Zenny have Fantoon disappear there, and we're getting another slow. That's really bad luck on Fantoon.
About RNG and Hundo. Zenny actually uses a lot of strats that end up being faster in the grand scale. Like he'll do super missiles on Ridley and things like that. Beautiful. But it actually does create an element of RNG as far as, not as far as like losing a run because you run out of ammo, but in what could cost you more time later.
Yeah, if you use a lot of supers on Ridley, it will speed a Ridley fight up. But if you don't get those supers back for Mother Brain 1, it'll slow down the glass breaking and that Mother Brain 1 phase for you. You'll lose a couple of seconds there, I'd say, if you don't have your full missiles or full supers there.
So this room for right side supers, I feel like the actual strategy that Zenny's using here is one that he developed. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but until he started running Hundo, I don't think I had seen a run with that particular way through, because most people look at pushing that middle robot to the center to make it makes that morph and bounce off of the little shot there a lot tighter than it is if you just ignore the middle robot.
I was thinking that was Behemoth strat, but I'm not totally sure myself.
Honestly, that's one of the greatest and worst things about this community is there are so many people who are developing strategies for any category, any part of the run at any given time, and it's wonderful that we have so many people working to optimize this game. Even though we look at this and we think a lot of it is optimized or as optimized as it can get, there are people who are working tirelessly to continue optimizing it, and it's unfortunate that there's so many I can't know all of them by name for every strat.
Right. I don't think anybody knows them all by name. So this was the HBJ horizontal bomb jump that Giggles was talking about earlier. Yeah, you can actually jump straight from that platform to the left if you do it perfectly, but it's way more consistent to use a bomb jump there to get over. And that's a 2-cat strat, I can say that.
HVJ is?
Well, using it there at least.
Yeah.
I remember 2-cat suggesting that when I was working on how to make this route a thing.
And I don't know if this was just before 2-cat or for people who were struggling with HBJ, but I know at one point people would take off high jump boots as they were making their way up, and then they would be able to clear the gap pretty easily. But the only downside is it costs you 2 pops.
Right. Yeah, that's obviously that's a big hit to have to pause twice just for one jump. So we definitely wanted to get around doing that. So the bomb jump was really instrumental in helping to make this run as good as it could be. So having a little trouble in the attic there. Looks like robot room's going not too bad. These rooms are really difficult in this run. The top of the wreck ship here and going back and forth. We call it the attic. The room to the left of the robots. That's the nickname for it. It's hard to remember that not everybody knows all the slang because there's so much slang in this game.
Well, and another really interesting thing about Super Metroid, if you haven't seen a run before, is every room has a name. Some of them are very generic. Some of them are hilarious. The room before Fantoon is the basement, and it's just kind of talking about the vertical shape of the wreck ship there. But that's when I was talking earlier about Zenny going for a lot of really complicated strategies that are faster, but can be very difficult to do. The attic strat he uses is incredibly difficult to do, and it's very unforgiving. So yeah, he had a little bit of trouble there. But it's if you've ever seen him do a run, when he gets it, it is a thing of absolute beauty, and it is unrealistically fast.
Yeah, it was scaring me there as far as that super block. The super block that you go down to get that missiles in the outside area, it will respawn, so you have to be careful there. And he was out
Yeah.
super.
So I didn't see if I don't have the audio on, so I don't know if he actually got it. But what Zenny was going for there is a trick called robot flush. You'll see when he gets to the bottom of this room, which we call bowling, as you can see, because the Chozo was carrying the bowling ball down the lane. Underneath this is a room with a couple of robots that you have to shoot into holes, and a Chozo statue that can be blown up with a power bomb. If he did the robot flush correctly, those two shots he did, and the power bomb, then the robot should be in the ground and the statue gone with the missiles floating. And it looks like he missed the second shot, but he landed the first and got the power bomb.
In some way, it's almost good he didn't get both of the robot shots because it kind of illustrates what you're saving when you actually get it. Sometimes when people get it and you're commentating, it's hard to they just fly right by it, so it's hard to explain what actually happened.
Yeah, and 100% is a little bit easier than a challenge category like RBO, where every room has its own ridiculous explanation that can take 2 hours.
Yeah, this the great thing about this category is with all the movement, like when you get all the items, you have just more. You go into most of the places in the game, and you're getting most of the items, so you have all the movement options at your disposal. Makes for a lot of really cool strategies. So this category is sort of a lot about how well you move through the game and hitting all these crazy movement strats.
Speaking of crazy movement strats, one in particular that's coming up, I don't know what the chat limitations are here, and I don't want to speak out of turn, so do you want to address the upcoming series of Shine Sparks?
Yeah, so Zenny's going to begin this powerbomb pack, and we'll be setting up for a door wrap shot, which means he's going to be shooting the door on the left side of the screen from the right side. So the rooms in the game's kind of code or whatever, like the rooms actually wrap around. There's kind of copies of the room to the left and right, so you can shoot the left door from the right side if you just set it up perfectly. And then he's going to drop down and try to get he's going to manipulate his health with his reserve tank to where he's hoping to land in a certain spot to set up for another Shine Spark here. And he's just so in tune with this. I'm assuming, yeah, he's got almost a perfect health here to land in the right spot. Then he's going to go for the back gauntlet spark, which is one of the hardest tricks in this run. And it'll save him some power bombs in like 5 seconds till he gets it. And it looks like he has a good shot at getting it. It looked like it was I think that's going to be good if he gets the Shine Spark.
Yeah, he got the blocks and he got the power bomb down, so he should be able to get.
Very nice. That's a nice time save. Saves power bombs as well, so don't have to worry about running out of power bombs at this point, I'd say. Oh god.
Yeah. he took that pretty safe after the. Wow.
So yeah, if you fall down there, you have to go all the way back around because those crumble blocks. It's a little aggressive on Zenny's part there, but that's what we expect from him.
Zeni recently did this run for a Games Done Quick marathon, and he actually missed the blocks and only went down one side. So he went back and did that gauntlet spark again. And it's obscene how precise that spark is, because your short charge has to be short enough to break the block, but not so short that you fall through the block. Otherwise, you can't drop the power bomb and pick up the E-tank and get to the other side before it runs out. So him doing that twice was just a giant flex.
Yeah, you want Speed Booster to activate late enough to where you don't fall in the hole, but early enough to where it breaks the block under you, and it's a very specific. It's very specific as to when you need Speed Booster to activate. That's the difficulty in the trick. The short charge itself is not that hard, but knowing exactly how short your charge is and how to sort of get your positioning right in the next room is really the difficulty. I can't remember how the task used to do it a different way, but I can't remember how it did it. I think it was just so fast at movement it didn't have to break the floor out that way. But yeah, that's the only human way I know of to do it.
So what we're entering into here is kind of the first of a few item cleanup sections. He's making a second trip through Brinstar here, and there are a couple strats that we'll talk about when he gets to them. But for the most part, it's just getting to the items and picking them up to clear his way and make sure he gets all. So for now, I'll see if we have any donations to read off and go from there.
Well, we did have a couple of donations come in during that. A $25 donation from No3 saying roast the animals, and a $10 donation from DJ Tatsujin saying Willow incentive, save the Mad Mardigans.
I don't know what a Mad Mardigan is, so I'll take your.
I think it's like an animal.
But we only have Eticoons and Decor.
So this door that Zenny just came in to the E-tank room, he actually opened with that power bomb first coming into the area here. It was actually positioned exactly right to where it opens up the blocks on the left side to get to the power bomb area on the left, and opens up a door on the right, a orange door to get to this E-tank area as well. It's a little detail that can be missed sometimes. We had a question in chat about falling very quickly. So I don't think we talked about that. It's called Moonfall, and if you go back more than like 4 years, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was, 3 or 4 years. If you go back further than that, most people, I don't know of anybody that used to run with Moonwalk, but there was a trick found where you could use Moonwalk to uncap your fall speed. We don't see it everywhere because it takes a little bit of time to set up, like maybe, a quarter to half second to actually set it up. So you need like a pretty decent, you need to follow a pretty decent length to make it worthwhile doing. But in 100%, we see it a little bit more often than we would say an 80% run or something. But yeah, basically you just moonwalk backwards and you hold an angle, like angle up or angle down, and then you jump backwards and let go of them in a certain way. That's how it's done.
I feel like Moonfall is a fairly recent. It was a fairly recent trick when I started running, and that was, I think, coming up on 2 years ago. So it is, as far as the lifetime of this game, it is a new trick, relatively.
It's one of the last biggest time saves in, say, any percent. As far as something that saves more than 5 seconds. Oh, a nice clip out of the waterway area there.
Yeah, that's another one of those really difficult things that Zenny has found how to make consistent, because that particular ledge clip, you have to break your spin before you land on the ground, and it'll position you in a way to where you can jump through a single tile. That one is really difficult because you actually have to be further to the left, and you're also doing it blind. So it's a little difficult to set up, but it's really neat when you get it. We're getting to the back half of this item collection section here. He's done with Brinstar, but there's a bit of an item collection section before he gets to the bosses in Meridia. So during this time, I'll go ahead and say I'll talk about the marathon itself for a second. Guys, we are less than $400 away from our goal. And there still is an unnecessarily large lead on the improper choice of saving the animals. So if you guys want to make the correct decision and kill the animals and hit our goal at the same time, I think we can hit it by the end of this run. I love that short charge at Main Street.
Yeah. That's one of the ones that catches a lot of people's eyes when they first see this run, as far as short charges go. And it is a difficult short charge. That's not the intended way to get that missile pack in the beginning of Meridia. You're supposed to, I think the intended method is to open the green gate to the right. Is that correct?
Yeah, you go in the other room, you open the green gate, you do a full charge in that room, and then you go to the little seaweed and jump up. That's how the developers intended you to get that message. Unfortunately, that's slow, and this is a speed run, so we don't do that. We do things that are like killing the animals.
So to manipulate the ability to get a shine spark quicker, there are 4 particular frames as you're dashing or running that the game checks to see if you are holding dash, so it will activate the shine spark. It doesn't continually check to see if you're holding dash during a forward movement to check for shine sparking, or the ability to activate your blue suit, I suppose, or blue echoes, speed echoes. So what we do is we just tap dash during those 4 little frames to get a faster speed boost activation. And you can also, before the first tap, you can also do a little stutter step by letting go of forward either once or multiple times to even further slow yourself down as far as your movement from left to right or right to left.
Yeah, when you think about this game, I mean, this game is from 1994. It came out a long time ago, and when you think about the limitations of hardware that they had, the way that they got around the limitations, looking at this for a casual playthrough, is really interesting, and it's ripe for abuse by speedrunners. But it really is just a unique way to avoid the game having to check various pieces of data on such old hardware every 60 times a second.
Yeah, and all these little unintended texts in this game have just, I would say have made it all the better for speedrunning. It just makes it a deeper sort of physics and control system that allows you to do a lot of fun things in the game. It allows for a very flashy speedrun too. So I'd say that's why this. What's up?
I was gonna say, coming up on the mini boss of Meridia here, Botwoon. He's got we use a special beam attack that's kind of alluded to in the intro sequence. It uses, if you have 1 beam plus charge, you can use a power bomb to do a separate type of attack. With the wave beam, it's called X Factor. It shoots those 4 particles around you in an X, and we use those to collide on Botwoon to do 1200 damage to him immediately, and then finish him off with 6 supers. Looks like Zeni barely missed getting a 1 round there, but he was able to clean it up in the second.
Yeah, Baltoon has a pretty questionable hitbox for his well, where you can actually hurt Baltoon is his head, and the rest of the body tends to block shots that seem like they should have hit the head, so it's kind of frustrating sometimes.
And
So
here we're coming up to Dragon almost immediately after Botwin. After this fight is we're gonna hope for a 2-round kill here, and that's just basically the initial swoop and then 1 goop pattern, and she's dead. After which he's going to be going for the spike suit that Zeus was talking about earlier. If he gets it, he'll turn blue for a second, and if he doesn't, if he gets the bad frame, then he won't turn blue for but a second. And that was a beautiful 2-round kill.
Okay, it looks like we weren't able to get that spike suit. Yeah, it's basically double frame perfect with some caveats, but just to simplify, I'm not going to get too into it because I can't remember exactly all the details as well myself. But if you activate the spike suit like a frame too early, then you lose your whole ability to shine spark completely. So I think he was just being a little careful with trying not to get the bad frame there. It's better to have that blue suit than it is to fail the spike suit and lose everything.
For sure. I think it's like a 2-frame window for the first, and then you have to hit it. It's either that, and then you have to hit it 10 frames later, or it's a 1 frame, and then you have a 2 frame, but one on the back end, but one of them is the bad. It's something like that.
Right.
There are a lot of tricks in these runs that Zeddy goes for that are legitimately frame perfect.
So we're coming up to the ice clip, the spring ball clip. This is the main. This is like one of the biggest tricks that made this route possible. I mean, this is the trick that makes this route possible. That allows you to delay Croc. Otherwise, you're forced to get grapple beam. But we're gonna set up this. There's a little worm called a Puyo, and we're gonna freeze it in the perfect Y position, to where we can clip through the floor to get towards the spring ball area. And without that, we would be forced to, like I said, to get grapple before we come here. But delaying Crocomire is very nice because you'll have space jump, you'll have screw attack for that area, you'll have plasma beam, which just kills Croc in 1 shot, which is the biggest change. Okay, let's see how he does on this. Looks good, I think. Yep. Very nice. So there's a couple of ways you can do that clip. There's one slower way that's a little safer, where you manipulate the camera. And so you jump up there without the camera moving up towards where the worm is, and you can freeze it pretty consistently. Zeni's method is sort of like this more similar to the first method came up that was come up with to consistently get through that area. Back in the day, we didn't do this route at all. Like when it was in-game time, when that was the main metric, this route was done where you clip towards spring ball with the ice beam, but it was so inconsistent for the first few years when I played that nobody really went for it. And when the game turned into an RTA, real-time game or a speedrun. But yeah, at some point I figured out that you could hold the charge and spin jump, and there's a consistent way to do it that way. But since then, there's been multiple methods found to make that consistent, which has opened up this route to be fully grinded down and become the main route as far as world record time or world record run would be concerned.
Yeah, and just kind of an idea for you guys about this versus the early croc route. It's about 20 seconds faster if you get the ice clip first try. Each time if you have to reset the room once, I think it basically breaks even, and more than that, it's a loss. So consistency on a trick that's a consistent setup for a trick that's pixel perfect really makes that 20 seconds a lot more bearable because you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right. The three major problems with the with the delayed croc route were the spring ball clip, the getting to the wreck ship E-tank, and conserving our health in the wreck ship on the way to the gauntlet E-tank. Those were the things that had to be worked out before this route really became a thing. Because if you go back to like Hodorubi's 100% run, where he does this route, but he does delayed gauntlet, so that helped a lot as far as being able to not have to worry about conserving your energy in wreck ship. Plus, almost certain he paused to take off the high jump like you were talking about earlier, because it was an in-game time route and the pauses did not affect his run. Because when you pause, the in-game timer does not advance. So they're
Right.
basically not a time loss if you're doing in-game time.
So coming up here, Zenny is going to be going for an incredibly precise strat that, if executed incorrectly, can soft lock the game, if I remember correctly. Maybe that's only going down. But it looks like he missed the blue suit. He was going to try and get blue suit through that door and then do a blue suit spring ball jump up through the speed block there. Since he didn't get blue, he was able to shine spark up, which is completely consistent and safe. It's just a little bit slower. And he's actually going to be making his second lap through Meridia here. Once he finishes this, he'll be going back to Kraid to pick up the missile pack that Zeus was talking about earlier when he was discussing the differences between the early and late power bomb routes. And then we're going to be almost immediately heading into Lower Norfair. But while we're wrapping up this last little item cleanup section for Meridia, do we have any donations?
I do have a couple of donations. I've got a $5 donation from Sir Hoptat saying, "Save the frames, kill the animals." And then a $10 donation from Falfon saying, and I agree with this one, "If everyone put down money right now for Kill the Animals to rightly win, that would also be enough to meet the $15,000 goal for feeding the children. It's meant to be."
I wholeheartedly agree with both of those statements.
I do too. We're $375 away from the $15,000 goal, and we're just about 20 minutes away from the deadline on saving or killing the animal.
Yeah, the cutoff for that is going to be the end of the Mother Brain fight. Once we finish Mother Brain 3, we'll call for that, and then we can let Zenny know what he's going to... Hopefully we'll get to tell him he gets to do what he's accustomed to doing, which is just... He's not really technically killing the animals, he's just leaving them to their own devices, and I think that's fair.
It's a very nice speedball out of Kraid's lair. It's a difficult little trick there. That's probably the biggest trick I was talking about earlier when I was saying we'd be returning to Kraid's lair and see some cool stuff.
Yeah, now that we have all the major items except for Screw Attack, and we do have all the movement items in the game, the strats are going to get really...
So we're going to pass right on by Croc one more time here. It's faster to take this route to go down to Lower Norfair and then pick up the missile pack before the green gate leading toward the elevator room on the way out. That's why, although we have all these items now, we could still do Croc areas really fast. We could still do Croc's area really fast right now. We're gonna wait coming out to do Croc because of the sort of the item routing.
I always kind of wondered if there was a route back in ye olden days that would do early Croc and then like go up the Croc speed.
Oh, you mean like go reverse speedway?
Yeah, to get the missile pack on the way as the last item.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't remember that being a thing, but it could be. I mean, you could definitely do that. You could go, right as soon as you get down to Upper Norfair, and then come up with a, a reverse speedball of Croc Speedway or something. So this chorizo is the one we were talking about that blocks you if you don't have space jump. For some reason, the game checks for space jump, and that chorizo, if you don't have space jump, it will not drain the lava. It won't grab you. So that keeps you from getting this missile pack without space jump, without some shenanigans, we'll say. There's some shenanigans to get that missile pack anyway without having to have space jump, but they're really difficult. And so, I mean, one of these days we might see Parade Ridley fan-tuned Dragon route, but I'm not really sure on all the details of that. But I know it's possible if you do some it's called a super jump to get to that missile pack, but I don't really know all the details behind it. You have to have X-ray and speed booster, I think, for it.
So that fight that went by in about an instant is the Golden Chorizo, and honestly, it's I feel like that's one that Zeni optimized himself. That entire room, everything from the power bomb to using or taking damage from GT before he's active, to minimize the lag from the power bomb, to how he sets up the extra shot from the left side of the room, to how he exits the door basically as soon as it's able to be open, for how he goes up to get the super missile. It's really, really smooth, and it looks really clean.
Yeah, all this stuff is really important because it adds up. You think all these little things like reducing lag and making sure you enter doors correctly, and all these little small details add up very quickly over the course of a full run of this game. You really need to pay attention to all those if you want to get a top tier time. It's one of those things that the practice hacks of the recent years have really helped with. It's a lot easier to time rooms and see where you're lagging the game or not, see how fast the doors are activating and stuff like that with the practice hack. It's helped a lot to optimize the game.
I don't know who made the practice ROMs, but they are insane.
I think Total probably would get the most credit for the modern practice ROM, if I'm not mistaken. Total is a definitely a hero of our community. Not the most sung hero, but one that deserves to be sung more, I'd say.
So Zeni is coming up on a few rooms that, when they are done optimally with all the movement items we have, look really cool, like that metal pirate room. He missed the door, but otherwise the strat was executed extraordinarily well. He tried to get a space jump through I believe that room with the owls is called the plower, or is that the strat for the room, or is it both?
That's the strat, as far as I understand.
Either way, he tried to get a jump through there so he could keep momentum all the way to Ridley's door. There's actually a really sick spring ball strat you can do there too, but unfortunately he wasn't able to show it off. He is showing off using super missiles on Ridley, though. This is what I was talking about. Supers are still more DPS even than the full beam combo, and you don't really have to worry about the ammo here. But a lot of runners tend to just use charge shots because it will affect your ammo for the rest of the run, especially in the Metroid rooms.
Yeah, supers do double damage to a number of bosses, Ridley included. So with that set, with that property, they do definitely more DPS than a full beam shot. It's not the same for all bosses, though. Some bosses take regular damage from, like Mother Brain 2. Will take regular damage from the super, so it's about the same DPS, I think.
Yeah, the Dragon and Crate take normal damage. Phantoon, Ridley, and Mother Brain take normal damage, or take double damage rather. I don't know the mini bosses. I think GT might take double.
GT takes double damage.
I don't know if any of the other mini bosses. I know Batoon does not take double damage. It's
Right.
kind of weird. They just selected which one. It's almost like they just said "eeny, meeny, miny, mo" to figure out which ones were going to take double.
I'm sure they had some sort of logic behind it, but it is pretty hodgepodge as far as like it's different for every one of them, it seems. And it's kind of funny. Oh, I love that boost onto the frozen fly. Such a cool strat. I think that's a DBX strat. The firefly, frozen firefly boost.
Now we're coming up on an attempt for a trick called the Hodarubi Special. He's going to try and pick up the missiles with Speedball and break the blocks all in one go.
Looks good too. I think he got the good version where you break both blocks. Yeah. So this maze, I think, was designed for X-ray. You can X-ray and see the maze. Little ball maze there.
There are some things that we question what they were meant, because there are some sections where there's like invisible areas, but X-ray won't work, and
Right.
it just sometimes I wonder if some of these things were oversights or intended.
Right. Sometimes X-ray will lie to you. It's not very often, but sometimes it will. Another interesting thing is that the ninja pirates take double damage from supers too. That's a normal enemy that takes double damage for some reason.
Honestly, makes no sense. But I mean, it does set the strategies up in a pretty particular way. So I guess this would be the prime opportunity to throw out the obligatory Deer Force New.
So clean up the rest of Bubble Mountain that we left, all the items we've left behind in the previous visits. There's some cool strats in this area. My favorite's probably the actual Bubble Mountain room strat. With the spring ball into D-boost. Into trying to get up to D-boost from the waiver again. It's a really cool room. It's coming up here in a second.
Bubble Mountain strategy, it just makes the entire room flow perfectly if it's executed correctly. He's got the first half. Let's see if he can get the return D-boost as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that D-boost off the waiver all the way to the left is actually really difficult to get. And it saves like about a second. It's really nice.
Now he's finally, after waving at him a couple times, he's finally making his way down to Croc, and it looks like he got the swag strat.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick here, as he's coming into Croc, I'll say this quickly. We've got probably about 12 minutes or so before the save kill donation incentive is going to be shut off. 12-ish, maybe 13. So make sure you get your donations in so that we can kill the animals. And then do you want to explain what's happening on the screen right now?
I'm still not even totally sure. Well, basically, he springballed above Grade. I mean, not Grade. Above Crocomire. And he got to the E-Tank before he could get hit again. I don't know if the game checks all the way behind Crocomire and at certain periods, and if you're behind Crocomire, it pushes you in front of Crocomire. I'm guessing that's what happens, because you got all the way to the tank and it still... Basically, it hits you and it zips you all the way to the left to Crocomire, I believe. But the camera doesn't follow that quick of a zip, so to speak. So the camera's still to the right of where your position is. But for some reason you show up. I don't understand that exactly. But yeah, you saw Croc walk basically over Samus. But that's not where Samus' actual position was. Samus was to the left there. And there's an invisible wall that goes up when Croc when Croc falls into the acid, and you end up on the left side of that wall, so you can run to the left and go ahead and start your spike suit attempts, and you get a little bit more time to try to get that spike suit, which I think he got. Did he get it?
Yeah, he got it. He was sitting there floating blue for a good while. Since he got the spike suit, he's going to have to be very, very careful with his movement to make sure he doesn't accidentally lose his shine spark. He's going to be holding this all the way until he gets to X-ray, which is all the way back up in Red Tower. If you see a shine spark before then, it was not intentional.
Right. It's kind of hard to hold this shine spark, because if you try to do a neutral jump accidentally, you will shine spark. If you press up when you're in the air, you will shine spark accidentally. So he's got to really avoid pushing the wrong button at the wrong time here to save that shine spark. Otherwise, you can pretty much play as intended. The faster way to come out of this missile room, we call it the cosine room, I think, is to shine spark out of it. But since we're holding a shine spark, we want to keep that. So we do a spin jump out of it. It's actually a very particular spin jump, where you want to wall jump check the door, which means that you spin jump, and before you hit the door, you turn around backwards. And what that does is, so the game's always checking your position when you're in spin jump to see what you can wall jump off. And it can allow you to basically trigger a door earlier than normal, because if you're close enough to wall jump off that door and you're spin jump and facing backwards, it will trigger the door earlier, like in the position's a little bit further away from the door than normal. And that's the way you can get this jump. Like, otherwise the jump would ricochet weirdly out of that room and you wouldn't be able to go up the right wall like he did. So you do that wall jump check and then you hold left, and the spin jump goes straight up instead of going wildly to the left. If you're in the air after you spring ball, you can actually hold up and not lose your spike suit. And you can actually shoot up.
Right, because it's a matter of being, I think it's a separation between a jumping state and a falling state, and unmorphing midair puts you in a falling.
Right. So it looks like we're getting there. This is the X-ray spark. This is one of the reasons that this route does save 20 seconds. It would still save like 15 seconds, but the figure that Giggles quoted earlier about the 20 seconds includes this X-ray spark.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds over the course of the run. It's not just routing difference as far as which items you're going to. It's how you get to them. Because, I mean, even the Croc fight is significantly faster since he's not stopping to open his map.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the biggest single time save is the Croc fight with Plasma. just the one shot croc. And especially if you don't get good RNG on croc, if you don't like if you go croc early, croc can give you bad RNG where croc stomps a bunch and wastes a bunch of time. So definitely if you include the RNG, I would say, yeah, that's the biggest single time saver with this route.
So, another example of Zenny going for impossible strategies because they're fast and really swag. He attempted to, and he set up for a trick called the reverse slinky, which you can only do with speed booster and spring ball, which is when you go through that room with all the green ledges. You spring ball very, very precisely, and you can actually get all the way up to the room as a speed ball. It's never surprising to see somebody miss it. It's actually more surprising to see somebody go for it. But Zenny always at least attempts it on the way up, and he wasn't able to get it. It would have been another nice flex to throw into the run, though.
Right. Yeah, that's especially with full speeds. Reverse slinky is just one of the hardest tricks in the game. You can kind of slow down your speed and still get blue and make it a little easier, but it's a very difficult strat. So we've only got a couple more items left before we're heading to Tyrion.
Yeah, the betas, the criteria supers, mother brain supers, and 230.
Mm-hmm.
This is the final item cleanup section here. After he picks up his last 4 items, or now 3 items here, he's going to be heading to Golden 4, where he's going to sit there and check his social media for 40, and then he's going to go in and try and show off a lot of fun strats in Tyrion. With going in with only, unless he gets a drop, he'll only have 8 supers going in. Including one of the tricks he's going to go for is called the spring ball baby, which I couldn't even begin to tell you how it works. All I can tell you is that it is insanely fast, and I always think he's going to miss it, but he gets it more often than not.
Yeah, the movement for the spring ball skip is very particular. I'll try to explain a little bit when we get there.
So we got the criteria supers. All that's left is the 230 missiles, or as they're known for the meme, the dentist pack, because
yeah, and he'll be going for a little bit of another mock ball, movement mock ball coming out of here. We'll see if he can get it. It's a really cool mock ball through a tunnel. It's really particular. And then we'll see him open up one of the last doors on the way to Turian with grapple beam. One of the interesting things about grapple beam is that it opens doors. It moves quicker than a beam shot, so he can use it up here at the top of this room and open the door. Okay, he doesn't do the grapple open strat, I guess. Never mind. Yeah, if you want.
And one, it's a lot better because grapple, if it's off screen, doesn't disappear like a normal shot does because it's attached to you. That's the biggest thing, because your shot can just disappear if you haven't scrolled the screen far enough.
If you haven't watched the tasks of this game, I definitely would say the 100% one is not a bad one to watch at all. You'll see a lot of grapple use, a lot more grapple usage than you would in the most human speed runs. The task is always using grapples everywhere, opening doors, grabbing items in crazy ways, even doing damage boosts.
We've got about, I'd say, 4 minutes before we're going to be closing off the save. So make sure you get your donations in, and while or on that note, do you have any donations to read while we're watching this cutscene?
I do. I got a couple in. I got a $10 donation from Bryce saying, "We're all animals, right? Save them." The arbitrarily wrong choice in this case. A $31 donation from an anonymous donor saying, "Let's make that gap an even 500, save the animals." And a $5 donation from Sir Hoptat saying, he's going to save the animals from their miserable existence by letting them burn, kill the animals.
Beautiful. So I'll let you talk a little bit about Turian because these strategies are just insane. And second of all, Spring Ball Baby Skip is just beyond me.
Zinni was going to try to shoot the door in that room 3 and then spring ball up to it and through it. So, yeah, Zinni actually did room 2 in a different way. He grouped the Metroids in the second room where there's 2 Metroids to save on supers there. Because the normal fastest strat there is to shoot them both and kill them without collecting any of the drops. So you lose a super to killing them individually, and you would not get the drops. So he's doing a little bit different strats because of his super count. Now we're going to see the Spring Ball Baby Skip attempt. You have to space jump in a very particular way here against the scree on the ceiling. God, he got it. So you have to do a very particular set of inputs there. Like your space jump has to be really late, and you want to bonk the scree. And then you have to shoot your beam to the left at a particular time to where it will open the moss, or like it'll open up the moss area, and that can't be too early or too late. And then you land, you do like a mock ball into a spring ball. So it's a very difficult trick, basically. Nice down back Zeb skip as well. So if you skip the first Zebetite wall, the next 3 will not spawn. Obviously, it's intended to just shoot them out with missiles, but it's a lot faster just to clip through it. The Zebetite walls are considered an enemy in the game. They're sort of programmed like an enemy. So there's the little rinkas, the little rings that form. You freeze one of them when it spawns, and you sort of step on it, and it pushes you forward a pixel, and it gets you inside that Zebetite wall, and you jump through. That's basically how it works. So Mother Brain's a little bit routine and 100%, although one thing that can lose you or gain you a bunch of time is these red beams, these little catch-up patterns. It looks like he got a real good one there. So if she shoots 2 red beams, a lot of times that means if you have all the beams that she wasted a lot of your time because you have to wait for that animation to clear out with the red beam. So that was a good, nice Mother Brain too, I think.
And setting up here for Mother Brain 3, we're actually coming into a trick known as the stand-up glitch. This is another kind of interesting way they worked around the hardware, kind of like with the short charges where they only check on 4 frames. Here, the game only checks to see if you're on the ground and force you on the ground on, I believe it's 2 particular spots. One when the baby first comes on screen, and then one when baby detaches from Mother Brain. If you are in the air during those 2 particular moments, then you can do damage to Mother Brain because you're not actually locked to the ground. So once baby stops shaking on top of Mother Brain's head, you're actually damaging the 3rd phase health bar. And if he gets 39 shots in, we'll know if he does by the color changes, because the 39th shot will do the final color change. That leaves you with a 1-shot kill for Mother Brain. And we are coming very, very close to the end of our bid war here. Basically, as soon as Mother Brain dies, that's gonna.
Another thing that speeds up being able to move during this cutscene is that if you manipulate the baby to be at the middle right of the screen when the baby detaches from you and goes towards Mother Brain, it will significantly be faster than if the baby detaches from the ground. Because if the baby detaches from the ground, it has to float up to the right and then go to the left.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like I have to bring you the unfortunate news that we are going to be killing hundreds of innocent frames to save some animals who did nothing but mock us while we tried to learn new tech.
Nice blue bomber. Little spring ball out of speed echoes to break the speed blocks. See if the
Final
spring. Yep.
Said, and there's the final moonfall of the run. Spring ball strats just throughout are some of the most interesting strategies in the entire game.
For sure, spring ball is so fun to use. It's one of the reasons this category is so great. So I wonder if he's going to try to boomerang them. No. So if you jump into the door a very particular way, you can boomerang Samus into the door again, back into the door before it closes, and leave you can enter the animal room and leave again before saving them. Didn't know if Zenny's going to try to.
So look at all those poor innocent dead frames. Here we are with 1:16:31 is a really solid run. We've only ever had 2 people get a sub, or 3 people get a sub 1:15, and getting a 1:15 time is extraordinary. Getting a mid 1:16 in a marathon setting and having to save the animals is that's an impressive run. So great job, Zenny.
Yeah, 1:16 super solid, especially for a marathon run. I had some bad luck too. I know Fantoon's luck was really bad. Don't think he got the best super luck, but Attic kind of hurt that as well.
But all in all, not a bad run at all, and we'll be. I mean, we're pretty confident he got all the items. I didn't see him miss anything. I figured you would have said something if you thought he did. But the actual item percentage doesn't show up until after the credits here, so we normally we would have to verify the 100% before we confirm it as a successful run. Since it's not a personal best, it's not as big a deal. But I don't know where we're looking at with time as far as if we need to get rolling or if we're gonna wait for the 100%. What is the word on that?
Well, the word right now, everybody, the word is we just passed the $15,000 mark.
That's a great job,
Yeah.
guys.
And here is the following donation that put us over the edge. Harvest Farmer with a $400 donation saying, you know, since there are 2 Super Metroid runs, wouldn't it be nice to save the animals twice? I think so. Here's the donation to get that ball rolling. We could call it Save the Animals 2. Save Harder, a summer hit. So Zos, just so you're aware, you're already $400 in the hole to save the animals for your run. Speaking of Zos' run, it's also a bid war for category percent. Any percent, RB, reverse boss order is on there. Low percent ice. I've never heard about that one. That one seems interesting. So go ahead and you can put donations for that as well. But we did it. We hit the 15,000.
I actually didn't think RBO was on there. Did I miss?
I didn't think it was either.
I thought it. Sure, and
Oh, sorry. All bosses. My bad.
Okay.
I misread. Sorry.
Like, I need to do more practice tonight than I thought I was going to.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to scare you, or did I?
A little bit.
Any percent all bosses, 100% Redux, GT Classic, or Low Ice. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
Yep,
that's
my
right.
bad. I saw boss. I'm like, oh, reverse boss now. No.
There's nothing would make Zenny happier than you committing to RBO for a
Yeah, that would have made Zenny happy. I just want to say thanks for letting us commentate Zenny, and happy to help for this cause as well. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's honestly it's one of the things I love most about the speedrunning community is how charitable everybody is, giving up their time to put on these showcases, all to raise money for charity. It's a really good thing to see. So it's nice to have an opportunity to be a part of it, and I'm grateful for you asking me to participate. And we do have confirmed 100%. So that is Super Metroid 100%.
I mean, I think that's a fantastic night. You know, we got the 100%. We saved the animals. We raised $15,000. I mean, seems like a good night.
Your rate for completing your donation goal is 100%.
It
That's
is. But here's the best part. Just because we've reached the goal that's down at the bottom doesn't mean you all have to stop donating, because there's still a full day of marathon left.